While post-launch expansion packs aren't as popular as they once used to be, every now and then we get fantastic DLCs that add so much to the base experience that they become an essential part of the package itself. Some might add a crucial new mechanic, some might tell independent stories, while others might fix key criticisms of the base game. And with this feature, we'll look at 15 such examples of expansions that you need to check out. The Witcher 3: Hearts of Stone. The Witcher 3 is a massive game that's brimming with quality content that would keep one engaged for hours on end, but playing the base game alone isn't the complete experience. Both of the game's post-launch expansions, including Hearts of Stone, are equally good in their own right, but we're going with Hearts of Stone for this list simply because of the fantastic story. Set in an entirely new section of the map called No Man's Land, Hearts of Stone is all about Geralt trying to defeat the immortal Olgierd von Everic. Hearts of Stone also introduces new monsters, side quests, and new combat mechanics like rune words, which come together to make this expansion a surprisingly fresh experience that's unmissable for fans of The Witcher. Far Cry 3: Blood Dragon. Far Cry 3 features one of the best stories that the developer has told to date. And while Blood Dragon doesn't quite hit the same emotional punches or feature memorable characters like Voss, it definitely has its own charm that's sure to grow on you as you spend more time playing the expansion. Blood Dragon takes you back to a futuristic version of Rook Islands that puts you in the shoes of Commander Rex as he embarks on a quest to save the damsel in distress. It wears its sci-fi influences and genre stereotypes as a badge of honor, which results in an experience that's oozing with personality and rarely gets stale. The mission design, set pieces, and new weapons also give enough reasons to keep the gameplay a consistently fun affair. Sure, it might not connect to the main story in any meaningful way, but it is definitely worth playing through to the end. Bloodborne: The Old Hunters. Bloodborne is easily one of From Software's best works to date, and the Old Hunters DLC is like the perfect icing on top of an already lovely cake. It's a meaty chunk of content that's home to some of the hardest bosses in the entire game, with the likes of Ludwig, the Holy Blade, which not only gives a brutal white-knuckle challenge, but also have interesting backstories that are worth investigating. And it all ends with a final boss fight against the Orphan of Kos, who will push your skills to their absolute limits as he keeps on slamming you again and again with unpredictable sets of moves. Furthermore, also get plenty of new weapons to add to your arsenal and use them to create interesting builds for both PvP and PvE content, which makes getting the Old Hunters essential for anyone interested in Bloodborne. Dark Souls 3: The Ringed City. Dark Souls 3 is most likely the end of the saga as we know it, and the Ringed City DLC does a great job of ending that experience on a high note. It takes place in the titular Ringed City, where high-level enemies roam the looping levels all while you try to navigate through this twisted realm. Apart from fantastic bosses like Slave Knight Gale, the Ringed City is home to some memorable NPC questlines that should keep you busy for hours on end. It nails the feeling of being a part of a crumbling world with no semblance of life, and it wraps up the series' story in a way that's really satisfying for longtime fans of the franchise. Red Dead Redemption: Undead Nightmare. Red Dead Redemption is a pretty grounded game that's set during the decline of the American frontier, so expanding upon that with a story about zombies invading the Wild West seems like a ridiculous idea at first. It's so ridiculous that it just might work, and Rockstar did just that with Undead Nightmare. Mowing through hordes of zombies remains a fun time in this weirdly beautiful expansion, and it's made even better with new weapons and appropriately unique house mounts, one of which is a literal unicorn. It's also rich with content that should keep you busy for some time, which makes this a DLC that's worth investing in. The Last of Us Part 1: Left Behind. Naughty Dog delivered one of the most sincere stories of recent memory with The Last of Us Part 1, but Ellie's character felt a little underdeveloped in comparison to Joel thanks to her relatively paper-thin backstory. But the Left Behind DLC does a great job of righting those wrongs with a short but sweet section that's entirely set in an abandoned mall. Apart from shedding a much-needed light on how Ellie took care of an injured Joel, the story also switches perspective to the past, which follows the adventures of Firefly buddies Ellie and Riley in the same abandoned mall. It's pretty fascinating to see the girls being wowed by a foreign concept like social media networks and photo booths, and this level is filled with similarly heartwarming moments that make this a must-play for fans of the game. Outer Wilds: Echoes of the Eye. The Outer Wilds presents an intriguing mystery about an ancient civilization that is at the heart of this time-looping adventure, and Echoes of the Eye does a great job of adding more of the same to this excellent package. It also adds some horror-esque sections, which work surprisingly well within the context of the game, alongside a bevy of new puzzles and traversal to shake things up. All in all, it's a quality piece of content that anyone who loved the base game should definitely check out. Horizon Forbidden West: Burning Shores. Guerrilla Games delivered a fantastic sequel in the form of Horizon Forbidden West, which corrected almost every criticism with Zero Dawn and results in a breathtaking experience that rarely gets stale. However, the game was held back in some aspects on account of it being a cross-gen release, and the recently released Burning Shores expansion represents the best of Forbidden West. The new area is home to complex settlements, carefully rendered cloudscapes, and brutal encounters with a large scope that dwarfs that of the base game. The narrative that ties it all together is also compelling and features likable characters like Sika that are sure to remain with you long after you roll the credits. Ghost of Tsushima: Iki Island. Ghost of Tsushima still stands tall as one of the best open worlds of the last generation, thanks to a gorgeous representation of the island of Tsushima that's filled with all sorts of interesting activities to pursue. The Iki Island expansion is a continuation of the same story, and it takes our protagonist Jin to the titular island of Iki, where a new threat lies in wait for him. The story dives deep into the traumatic past of Jin and forces him to deal with his inner demons as he tries to confront and defeat the Eagle. It also introduces new enemy types, like the Shaman, alongside a new ghost ability that allows you to ram your horse straight into an enemy. The story quests are pretty fun, and the healthy amount of side content on offer makes the package an even sweeter deal. Marvel's Spider-Man: The City That Never Sleeps. Marvel's Spider-Man is easily the most mechanically polished rendition of the friendly neighborhood superhero in video game form, and Insomniac did a great job of nailing the free-flowing movement and acrobatic combat that one would expect from a superhero game. While the base game has a decent amount of content that can keep you occupied for dozens of hours, it's understandable that fans would want more substantial content from the game, and thankfully The City That Never Sleeps does just that. This expansion spans 3 distinct DLC episodes, which star fan-favorite characters like Black Cat and Hammerhead that make for a consistently thrilling ride, and sets up new plot threads for the future. While it's certainly more of the same, the consistent quality of the DLC content on offer ultimately makes it a quintessential part of Marvel's Spider-Man experience. Dying Light: The Following. When it was first revealed, Dying Light's The Following expansion looked like a risky move. After all, it was ditching the parkour-based combat system in favor of buggies. But Techland did a great job of proving the naysayers wrong once again with this expansion. Despite the initial skepticisms, The Following's new gameplay mechanics felt like a perfect fit for the ones found in the base game. Mowing down groups of zombies whilst riding on your buggy remains a fun affair, and a surprisingly fleshed out progression loop of upgrading the vehicle with new parts keeps it enjoyable for a long time. Even the story manages to be a lot better than the base game, which is a great motivator to keep exploring this new map that's filled with all sorts of opportunities to encache loot to find. Metro Exodus: Sam's Story. Metro Exodus marked a big change from the franchise roots, as it shifted gears from a largely linear game to an open world, where free exploration went hand in hand with carefully curated set pieces. And its post-launch DLC, Sam's Story, took all that worked with the base game and packaged it with a heartwarming story that makes for a consistently engaging experience. The new map of Vladivostok is home to a ton of varied content that's sure to keep you busy for some time, so you're also getting a lot of bang for your buck with this piece of additional content. Dishonored: Knife of Dunwall. Dishonored starts with Corvo being framed for the murder of Dunwall's Empress, who was actually killed by a shadow assassin. The Knife of Dunwall DLC puts players in the shoes of Dawood, that very assassin, as he embarks on a quest of repentance and redemption. This expansion also introduces new characters like Delilah, who would go on to serve the role of the primary antagonist in Dishonored 2, but even taking the expansion on its own terms, it's a worthy piece of content that gives a fresh perspective on the events of the base game. You also get a brand new set of abilities that can be used in all sorts of ways in the new legal district of Dunwall. All in all, it makes for a nicely rounded experience that's simply unmissable for fans of the base game. Citadel, Mass Effect 3. While Mass Effect 3 did a lot of right things in its gameplay department, a lot of fans rightfully presented problems with the ending that felt lacking in many aspects. The Citadel DLC tries to present those fans with a more fitting conclusion for the series. The sentiment also translates over to the gameplay, where Commander Shepard charges into battle with a big crew consisting of fan favorites, which makes for some memorable moments that are sure to remain with you long after you roll the credits. It might be a brief piece of DLC, but it's a highly satisfying one for fans nevertheless. Grand Theft Auto 4: The Lost and Damned. Grand Theft Auto 4 might just be the most underrated game in this hyper-successful franchise. And that's a real shame because it features one of the best expansions that Rockstar has ever produced. The Lost and Damned follow the story of the Lost MC gang, which is complete with all of the laughter and satire that one would expect from the developer. The gameplay also brings new quality of life changes like mid-mission checkpoints and better vehicle handling, which alleviates a lot of the frustrations with the base game and makes for a thrilling ride through and through. And that brings us to the end of the video. A quick request: we upload new videos every single day, and if you like what we're doing, please consider subscribing. It really helps us out. Also, don't forget to enable all notifications by clicking the bell icon so that you can receive daily video updates. Thanks for watching.